Hello and welcome to exercise 2 of week 4 of the Devtoberfest. In this exercise we are going to use the Fiori tools that come with the SAP Business Application Studio to build a Fiori application on top of an OData service that is provided by the ES5 demo system. The special part about this exercise is that I won't be your host this time. I will have a special guest, and why don't I let Mariana introduce herself? Mariana, thanks for joining.
Hello, my name is Mariana Naborka and I'm a product owner for annotation-related tools at SAP. These are the tools that you can use for developing SAP Fiori Elements applications. My recent project is the XML annotation LSP in SAP Fiori Tools extension pack, which is available for both Visual Studio Code and SAP Business Application Studio. Today, I will guide you through the journey of creating the Fiori Elements applications with our tools. So let me start. To create a Fiori Elements application, you need first to generate it with the application generator. To do so, we go to the command palette and search for SAP Fiori Tools application generator. And select it here. The Yeoman UI template is opened. And as a first tab, we select SAP Fiori Elements application because that's what we want to create. In the next tab, we choose the list report object page template and click Next. Here I need to select a data source and service. So for this, first I select an option that I need to have. So in this case, I will connect to an OData service through the service link. And I need to add a link here. So I will do so. When it's done, it's asking me for my login credentials. And I need to enter those. In the next screen, we need to select an entity type for the list report and object page. So I will take the one proposed by the wizard. And for the navigation, I will not select anything here. We will take care of that later. Just click Next. Here we need to enter the important information regarding our project. So I will enter the following attributes. As a module name, I will enter my Fiori app. And as we are going to build a managed project application, that would be an app title. I would also add a namespace, even if it's optional. It will save me some unnecessary steps. Next, and a title for my Fiori application. And the last field is to choose the folder for my project. I'm fine with what is being offered by the Business Application Studio, so I just press Finish. Now the application generator is generating an application, manage products, as I told it to do. Now the application is generated and I can add it to workspace. And the next steps is to preview what we already have. So I will right click on my project and select Open in Terminal. And here I will type npm start. The start script runs. Now I agree to expose and open. There's no extra information. And you can see here my managed product application. I need to enter my username and password, as we are working here with the real data. And here is my app. So I click Go to see what I have in the list report. Information here comes from the backend, and if I click here on any item, I can see the current state on my object page. So at this point, we are done with the first task. We have generated an application based on an OData service, and we ran a preview of that application, a list report, and an object page. So as a first step, we would add an export button to export the data that is provided in our list report table to Excel. This is done using the guided development. For this, from the command palette, I need to search for guided development and click Open Guided Development for my Fiori application. Now I will use search to find what I want to do. I want to export. And I want to export it to add this export to Excel button to the list report. So I will select list report page here. So that's what I want to get. And here is how I do it. You can read the instructions to know what needs to be done. The page is already selected as a list report. It's only once, so no changes are needed there. All I need to do is click on the apply button to apply this change to my project. So here you can see that enable export to Excel is set to true. So I just save it, and we will go back to our manage products application. You can see the button is already there. To make it active, I just need to click go. So that's what we just did. In the first step, we have used the guided development to add export to Excel button to our list report table. In the next step, we are going to enable multiple selection in this list report table. You see, it's currently with the radio buttons, so you can select a single row at a time, but we would enable selecting multiple with checkboxes. So again, it's very easy to do with the guided development. So instead of export, I will search for multiple selections. So yeah, I want to change a list report with enable multiple selection in tables. So I will just open this section here and see what I need to do. So again, it's list report, so no changes is needed here. Close it for a moment. I just need to click apply. So I clicked apply, and you see the new change, multi-select is set to true. I just save these changes with Control S and go back to my list report, refresh the page, and you can see it's already changed to the checkbox. So let me populate the table by clicking go, and you can see I can select now several rows in the table. So that was the step 2 of our guide, of our tutorial. And now let's proceed to the step 3. Step 3 refers to copying backend annotations visually to the local annotation file. So as you see, the application already has quite an UI. That's because there is a number of annotations that have been defined in the backend. And if you need to do any change here to the existing annotation, you need to first copy it from the backend to the local annotation file, which is currently empty. To visually copy the annotation from backend to the local annotation file, don't really need to go to local service folder and search for these annotations, maybe in the annotation file or in the metadata, and then copy it and then paste it here. There is a shortcut to make it much faster. We're using the service modeler. So again, from the command palette, I need to open the service modeler. Yeah, so SAP Fiori tool service modeler, open service modeler. That's what I will do now. And it gets opened in the list view. So I would like to copy a backend annotation from my main entity type, which is a product type. So I will search for that one. Here it is. I select it. And on this projection, I would like to view annotations. So I click here on the top, view annotations. And here you can see, I see for this entity type, all the annotations that are available in my project, in the metadata file, in the backend annotation file, and in local annotation file. So in local annotation file, there are currently no annotations at all. And as in this step, I would like to copy an annotation UI selection fields for updating my selection fields in the app. Then I would need to find these annotation selection fields and copy it locally to the local annotation file. So I've just clicked copy, you see, it got updated with a strike through, meaning that it's being overridden on the local level, and this annotation is now appears in the annotation file. And here on the right, you can see it's been added to the local annotation XML file and highlighted. So I can update it immediately here. So to update the annotation that we've just copied, I will use the XML annotation language server in my local annotation XML file. So here I have a selection fields that has two basically properties, price classification and main product category, which corresponds to these two selection fields. What I want to do now, I want to add a third one, and it's very easy with a code completion. So I just add a new line after the last property path, and then use control space as I'm on Windows. If you're on Mac, you use command and space, and select the only option that is provided here, property path. And now I need to select a property that I want to use as a selection field. So in this case, I will use the name, as I would like also to be able to filter my table by name. So I just start typing, and here in code completion provides me the option. So that's all what you need to do. Just save your annotation file, and then you go and refresh your application. And here next to the category, you will see a new filter field, which is a product name, and you can use it subsequently to filter out the table. So that was the last step in our second task. We have used two tools at this point, guided development to make changes to our app, and also we used another visual tool, which is a service modeler, to copy the annotations from backend. In the end, we use XML annotation LSP with code completion to get yet another filter field to our app. Now we will continue with the next task in our tutorial, and this is configuring object page using our SAP Fiori tools. So I will go to the service modeler. I will select here an entity type, our main entity type, which is also responsible for our object page. I open the annotations view, and here I would like to copy the annotations that is responsible for the field group with the qualifier technical data. So here it is. I just click on copy locally. And this annotation is being copied as before and also highlighted here in our annotation XML. So I will continue working in annotation XML. Here I would use the code completion again to add another data field, which corresponds to the field in the group. So I put my cursor next to the last closing record tag, add a new line, and with the control space, I would trigger the data field. It already enters the data field with a property, and this property needs to be a path. So I use control space again and select path. And here I use the control space again to add a dimension unit. Again, filter it out and add a dimension unit. At this point, I have added yet another field in my field group. That was the step 1. As a step 2, we would add a section with UI facets to display this technical data group. So for this, we need to work further in our annotation XML file. For the same target, we would need to add another annotation. Any place, let's do it on between the selection fields and field group. And with the control space, I call out the code completion and search for the facets. So I select UI facets. Here's the first option. It's already added. With the tab, I get inside of the collection, and I would add a reference facet here again with control space. I would select the full record here, and all 3 properties of UI reference facet has been added for me. So the first and most important one is the target. And I just need to provide a path to the field group that we've just updated. So that's a field group with a qualifier technical data. So I use control space and find it here in the list. Yeah, that's the same entity type. So it's directly here, field group technical data. I select it. So thus, I made my field group visible in the first section. What we can do here also is to set a label. So I just click tab. And again, with control space, I would add a string value for my label. And I will type the name of this section. And our tutorial suggests us to use technical data for this field group. So I will type it in. You can see you get immediately the warning saying that this is just a hard-coded text and not a translatable data. If I like, I can use a quick fix here that would create for me a text key and replace my string with the text value so my app is translatable. So just click on it and you see it's done. And the next thing I need to do is just again with the tab, I get to the ID field. Again, control space for adding a string value for my ID. It would be tech data. And now I'm done with creating my UI facet or section containing a field group for which we've just added a new field dimension unit. All I need to do to preview is to save my local annotation file. And then I will go to my app, refresh it. And when I get my list report running, I will navigate to the object page. And there you will see this new section. And you see it has a name technical data. It has several fields. For some of them, there are already data available, for others not. That depends on what data is available in the backend. Yeah, so with step 1 and 2, we created in the object page a new section with a modified field group. In step 3, we want to add a section, yet another section, to show monthly revenue of a product. For this, we would need to create yet another section, another reference facet in the local annotation file, and reference there the chart annotation, which is already available in the backend. So again, I'm at the end of the record for my UI facet. I add a new line, and with control space, I again select to add a reference facet, full record. So it immediately inserts all the properties. So as an annotation path, I want to reference a chart which is residing in the product sales data. So as a first step with code completion, I need to go to product sales data. And now with slash, I select the next segment, which is UI chart. So here we have already added the content, and now we need to add the label as ID, just as we did before with the tab and code completion, and a string value, which would be monthly revenue. This time I will not add reference, just go with the hard-coded text for now. Anytime I can go back to it and update it. And then navigate to some product, and voila, here we have our monthly revenue chart. That was the step 3. And the step 4 is adding line item to configure sales history table. So in this case, we would need to add a line item annotation, which represents a table, to our annotation file. So I'm opening my annotation file here, and I would like to add this line item with the sales data to the respective entity type, so not a product type any longer. But here in the end, I would need to add a new annotations target with control space. And this target would be product sales data type. And with tab, we get inside it. And again, use completion, control space to add your line item. Just pre-filtering. And with tab inside the collection, we would add some content. So in this case, data field, control space. I select the data field, and the value should be a path. So again, control space to select path. And again, control space to select what we want to show there. So in this case, it would be the sales ID. So I select the ID property. Now I'm going to add another column, which is represented by record. So again, after the closing record tag, I will add a new line and use the code completion, control space, to add yet another data field. And it would be again a path value, of course. And here I want to show the delivery month text. So I select this. If I like to have a different name for my column, I need to also add a different label with the label property. So for example, here, if I want to have sales ID and not ID, I just add another line, and with the code completion, I would add property label, and then again code completion for string value, and then type in my favorite label, the sales ID. Yeah, of course you can use the quick fix to make it translatable right now. So that's it. That's all I need to do to create the table. But to make it visible, I need to add yet another section to my object page and reference this line item there. So I go again back to my product type. to my UI facets, find the end of the last record, which is reference facet, and add a new line, and with the cut completion, add another full reference facet. So annotation path would need to lead to the line item that I've just created for the sales data type. So again, with cut completion, the first part is to select the navigation to the product sales data. And then with a slash, I get a list of options for the next segment, and I select a line item. So line item will now be displayed. And what I need to add, I need to maybe add also a label for my section. So here another string, which would be sales data. Okay, we will save the file now to see the changes in our application. So I would like to refresh my object page. And here I see already my two first sections coming, and the third one is the sales data. I can scroll to it, or I can just click on it. And this is a table that I've just added with a line item and reference with the UI facet. So thus we are done with the step 5. And in step 6, we will add a new object page. As I mentioned previously, we will use another Fiori tool, which is called Page Map. So I go back to my Application Studio and find the command to show page map. And here is my command, SAP Fiori Tools Application Modeler Show Page Map. Here you can see my app consists of 2 pages, one list report and one object page. And now I want to add one more object page where I will navigate from the first object page. So I will click here on this little plus icon. And here I can select where I want to navigate to. In this case, I want to navigate to the product sales data. So I will need to select it from the drop-downs. Luckily, we have here filtering too. So I filter for sales and click add. And the third object page has been successfully added to my app. So if I go back to my application and refresh it, here I will now be able to navigate from my table that I've just added to the second object page. You see here, clicking on this little arrow. So it opens a perfectly empty page. And to populate it, you can use the annotations again, as we did previously, to add different controls. There, just to save the time, I'm going to copy and paste from the tutorial the annotations that need to be added for our annotation file. That is the content for the product sales data. So I will find this target. Here's my product sales data. And after the last annotation, I would add a sample from my tutorial, just with copy paste. And now I save it. And I will go back here to my app and refresh it. Yeah, you can see that some information that we have added there is already available in our app. So the one header information with a title and the sales information with a few fields. So that was the last step in the last task. Thanks a lot for your attention. And in the next step, Marius will show you how to deploy your app. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. It was great that you were here to introduce the Fiori tools, namely like the application generator, the service modeler, guided development, the XML annotation language server, and the page map. And with all these like Fiori tools, you were able to build a Fiori Elements application in about 30 minutes. And I would really recommend that all of our viewers really go through the tutorial, do this themselves, because you really need to do this yourself. Especially, I would say, the XML annotation language server has a really steep learning curve. In the beginning, you have to look in the tutorial to see what do I need to type now. But you will get faster very soon. So maybe after the first time, after the second time, you do this tutorial, and then you get to know the full power of the annotation language server. And with that, we come to the end of the second exercise. I want to remind you one more time to turn off autoplay in YouTube if you want to stick around in the chat for a little longer, if you have questions. Otherwise, as always, you can open issues on the GitHub repository, and I'll see you in the next exercise where we'll deploy the web application to the Fiori Launchpad on Cloud Foundry. Bye.